Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Matt. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Now, I haven't tied a Smoky Mountain pattern in a while, so I picked up Don Kirk's Hatches and Fly Patterns of the Great Smoky Mountains, and the next one I wanted to tie in here, it's a pretty standard Leadwing Coachman. Now, of course, this pattern is not a Smoky Mountain original, but it has been popular there and in the Smoky Mountain literature since the early 1800s. And a lot of you will know the history of the original Coachman fly, created in England by a guy named Tom Bosworth in 1830. He was an actual coachman for several of the English monarchies. So he created this fly, and then one of his lords just gave it the name the Coachman. And the original has a white wing. The Leadwing Coachman is pretty much the exact same thing, but with a gray wing. And the original didn't have a tail, but a lot of folks later did add the tail. Just like the Royal Coachman, we all know that pattern. It's got the red floss in the middle of the body and a golden pheasant tippet tail. Now, I'm going to tie this with the golden pheasant tippet because I'm tying it in the Smoky Mountain series, and pretty much any fly in the Smoky Mountains that can get away with having a golden pheasant tippet for the tail, well, they do. So what exactly does this fly, either the regular Coachman or the Leadwing Coachman, imitate? Well, the Leadwing is pretty much gray caddis. Anytime you have a gray caddis hatch going on, it can be an effective fly. And it really imitates just a caddis that's diving down to lay its eggs on the bottom. Now, one other note on tying this, it has a brown hackle up front, and you can tie in the hackle either before or after the wing. I've seen it done both ways, so today I'm going to tie it in after. But do it however you like and see which one you like better. So that's it. It's a pretty simple pattern. I think you're going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there's one in the vise, a Leadwing Coachman. Now, Don Kirk's book says this, common sizes for this are an 8 to 12, so it's a pretty big fly. I'm tying this on a size 10. It's a 1X long wet fly hook. And I'm going to put a base of black 70 denier all the way to the start of the bend. Now, the first thing we're going to tie in is the tail, golden pheasant tippets. See these little guys right here? And what I will do, I will just grab them by the tips and reach in here, find about 10 or so, snip that, and then pull the main part of the feather out. Now, your tips should stay aligned. So measure about a body length, maybe just slightly less. Let's try it right there. 2 thread wraps should lock this in. We'll check our position. I think that's fine. I like when you got both of those bars showing, and so I pick a feather that will allow me to do that. Now the next component is, it's a wire rib. Now you can use small, extra small, brassy even, I'm sure. It's not for weight. It's mainly to just secure this peacock herl. And one of the cool things about this fly is it's a fairly buggy peacock herled body, so you don't have to worry about a perfectly smooth taper from that tail down to the shank. So after you get your rib caught in, just grab 3 strands of peacock herl, these right here. Now I'm going to snip off about the first couple of inches just to get rid of that really brittle stuff. And I'm going to catch it in right here, and then take it back to where I'm going to start wrapping them, which is right at the front of that tail where we caught in our wire. And here's a tip. I'm not going to spin these as a rope, so I'm going to leave my thread hanging about right there. Recall, if you were going to spin them as a rope, you just take these herl fibers and spin them around. I am not doing that. I think it lumps it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wrap all 3 of these kind of parallel to each other. But after you get about a third of the way up the hook, they will start spreading out on you. And if you leave your thread right there, watch the point of your hook, but if you leave your thread right there, as soon as they start to spread out on you, that thread will hold them together as you continue wrapping up. So that's just a little trick. I'm not sure who I saw that from, but it was pretty convenient. It helps you wrap smoother and more uniform bodies. That one's getting a little bit thinner up front, but you know what? We can live with that. It was probably these fibers were laying the opposite way and the short hairs were coming off the hook. But either way, that's a uniform enough body. So take your wire and counter wrap it on up. It doesn't have to be too close together, maybe 4 or 5 wraps, maybe 6. We'll lock it all in. Now, 2 thread wraps to lock this in up here. And also what I will do, since I've counter wrapped this wire, I'm going to pull it forward, kind of parallel to the shank of the hook, and then put a few extra wraps right here, just so that when I'm spinning it to break it off, it's not going to start to unravel on me. It will break off a little bit closer to the front. Okay, so that body looks fine, the tail looks fine. Now let's take 2 slips of gray duck quill from a right and left feather. Now I don't get too crazy about matching these up perfectly. I try to get them the right length, meaning the right width, meaning the same number of, fibers. And this is probably 15 or so. So measure the length to about the bend of the hook, maybe a little bit less. And what I'll do, switch hands, hang your thread where you want that back of that wing to be caught in, and I'm going to pinch it pretty tight. The threads are pretty tight, and I'm pinching kind of around the hook too. So I'm going to do a pinch wrap right there, but not pull it tight until I come up. Now I'm going to pull up with my thread as I spin it around, and hopefully that kept them on top of the hook without them spinning too much. And they're flared up a little bit right there, but I think we can live with that. So let's just try to preen them down. And then that feather closest to you is just a little bit off. But you know what? This is a fishing fly, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm going to put a couple more wraps right here. Maybe I can get that laying down a little bit, and not really, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I'll take a few wraps right here just to really lock it in before I snip this off, because if you're not careful, when you snip these front pieces off, you might spin the feather around. So just take your time and then snip these as close as you can get it. Okay, that took me a little longer than I'd planned, but oh well, it's worth it to get the smoother front end. It will help you get this hackle wrapped. So I'm just using a few extra wraps right here to try and build a smooth flat base to capture this hackle. Now for the hackle, it's brown or a medium dark ginger, and you can use rooster or hen. This is a rooster because we're not putting it on very thick. So this is a fairly thin rooster feather, and we'll catch this in. I want to try to turn it upright just a little bit and then spin it so that my first wraps are going to be perpendicular to the hook. So several wraps there to just secure that. Now let's snip off this stem right here. Spin a couple extra wraps to smooth that out. And now I'm definitely going to need some hackle pliers right here. This feather is just barely over 2 inches, but that's fine because we're only going to put 2, maybe 3 wraps, depending on, how thick your hackle is. It's a pretty sparse hackle. I think that is going to be 3 wraps right there. I'm going to back this off a couple turns, then just try to take it back here before I catch it in. Okay, so I'm going to catch this in right here on my side with 2 wraps before I snip it off. Okay, that's fine. See, that's a pretty sparse hackle, but that's exactly what I want for this guy. It is a wet fly. Okay, now we can just push these back. Try to get them at a little bit of a swept back angle if you can. It'll give it that more of a wet fly look. So I'm going to take a few wraps back right here. And it is a wet fly, so don't worry about building up a little bit of a head here. Okay, so I think that's going to be fine right there. Let's put a wet finish on this and clean it up if we need to. 4 or 5 turns right here should be fine. Snip this thread off. And I haven't showed you this in a while. We got a little bit more time left in this video. This little Wapsi container right here, it's got my UV resin in it. It's got an applicator, so you pull this out and this makes applying any type of head cement or UV resin so much easier. Just put a small drop right there, and you can use this, the stopper that came with it, or your bodkin, to just smooth it around. And that head's going to look fine. And if you have a smooth turning rotary vise like the Regal here, you can just give it a fast spin to help smooth that resin around it, and then put your torch on it for 10 or 15 seconds, and you'll have a nice hard head. So that's it, everybody. The Coachman wet, the Leadwing Coachman wet. I appreciate you watching. Now y'all take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, everybody, welcome to my screen. We are about to do the drawing for the Randall Scott Stetzer book, Flies the Best 1000. I'm going to copy this link location, go over here to the YouTube random comment picker. Let's paste this in, filter duplicates, and pick the hashtag we're looking for, which is Happy New Year. And see how many commenters we have. It looks like 54. All right, we've got 54 commenters. I know it looks like there were a lot more, but a lot of those were just me responding. So let's do this. Let's pick the winner for the book. And we got Neil Cox. All right, you got it, Neil. Congratulations, my friend. He says, thanks for the helpful review. And Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year to you too. So Neil, I will make a note on your comment. Send me an email, matt@savageflies.com, and we'll get this book on the way to you. So everybody that participated, I appreciate it. Thanks for all your support. Make sure you watch more of the videos in January. We've got a few more of these we'll be doing. So that's it, everybody. Take care. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time.